name is Rebecca Grange. I am one of the managing partners at Sojourn Solutions, and I am joined by Paul Stevenson, who is the head of marketing ops at O2. So just as a quick summary of what we're going to go through, we're going to talk a little bit about the lens that we use at Sojourn Solutions for looking at marketing ops and really the way that you use your marketing technology within the organization, which we call peak performance. And then we're going to go into the story that O2 has, and this is the really exciting part of the presentation. So we're going to take a look at initially the background, some of the challenges that the organization had, and then Paul is going to take us through the strategy that they decided on, the approach that they took, and really some of the successes and learnings through that journey. And then we get into the last part, which is the measurement, which is what all good marketing ops people are most interested in hearing about. There's a little bit of time at the end for questions, so we're looking forward to hearing your comments and any feedback that you have as well. So without more kind of intros here, I'm going to go ahead and get started. As I said, the peak performance strategic framework is the approach that we take at Sojourn Solutions when we look at marketing technology initially, but then also just the wider marketing ops conversation. And when we think about the start of that journey, we're always looking at what are the challenges that a business is facing. So what is it within the marketing ecosystem or even within marketing ops itself that is causing the problems or any of the misalignments. And then once that analysis has been done, then we kind of flow into the audits. And this is what we obviously have heard multiple times this morning throughout the keynotes about taking stock of what you already have within either your MarTech or within your process or the people that you have within the organization. And then from there, we have a good understanding of what needs to be done in each of those areas. And that could be within demand generation, it could be within funnel optimization, it could be within data standardization. So any of those micro strategies that need to be tackled, and they're what we think of as the journeys within the journey. You know, if you think of just something like data standardization, it's a massive project for most organizations in and of itself. And as we go through each of those micro strategies, then we're thinking about how does that get adopted? How does it get used within the organization, within marketing, and then within the wider sales and potentially IT functions as well. And that managing of change and really the people element of the story is what we're going to bring to light with what Paul is going to be speaking about. Throughout that continuum, there is an element of measurement, and you're only as good as the story that you can tell through the data that you can gather and the metrics that you can put in front of your stakeholders or in front of the wider organization. So the continuum of this peak performance framework that we've focused on, it really gets tied together by the measurement. And so that's what we've focused on with O2 and the journey that we've been on with them. To begin with, that wasn't always very easy because we had to stitch together some of the solutions and the MarTech that they had in place. But as time has gone on and some of those integrations have been solidified and really optimized, we've been able to pull together results in a much easier way, as we'll be showing as we go along here. So I'm going to turn over now to Paul, and he's going to get started and give a little bit of the background and then go into the rest of the journey.
Great, thanks Rebecca. Hi there, Paul Stevenson. I've been Head of Marketing Operations at O2 for the last 2 years, which is a new role which we created, bringing together the business-to-business division and the consumer division, so I now run all of ops across both. But I've been working in business operations for we set it up about 6 years ago, so it's been kind of slowly growing and morphing into what we currently have. We've got a great opportunity today. There's lots of people here talking about technology and technology platforms and why you've got to go out and get the latest and consolidate your tech stack and get it all working together, work on the integration, work on the optimization. I'm not going to talk about any of that today because actually I've got a really strong view that there are lots of platforms out there. I think I've seen the slide next door. I think we're up to 8,000 logos on the chart now. I don't have the time or the inclination really to understand all that, but what I do have the time to do is make sure we've built the team and built the skills and got the processes in place to cope with it. So very early on somebody had said to me that any transformational change when it comes to technology, the technology only makes up 20% of the change. The rest of the change is, the 80% is actually the people and process side. So how do you get yourself ready for that change? So we've looked through this content again last night. We've probably got too much for the next 25 minutes, so I'll try and rattle through quite a lot of it and kind of pick out some of the pertinent things for you. In terms of background and where we were, at the time the business-to-business division of O2 was going through quite a major transformation. It's about 5-6 years ago. We were moving from being working in a traditional mobile marketplace to wanting to reposition ourselves as an ICT player with value-added IT products along with our traditional portfolio. So there was quite a strong competitive pressure in the marketplace to change. Other key things is we did have a challenge with our data in terms of where the data sat and getting a unified view, a uniform centralized view of our data. It's something that I'm sure everybody can relate to. The process, in terms of end-to-end, what we did with the process, when we started looking at how we would bring through new technology, we realised that the process would fundamentally break. So we couldn't actually do what we did in the new world because we wouldn't have a process to support it. The technology needed a review. We didn't have any marketing automation, very much reliant on agencies to build, test and deliver everything that we were doing. So we had effectively subcontracted all that learning and all that responsibility out to someone else. So we had to fix that. And reporting, well, reporting at best was manual. At worst, it was probably finger in the air, and let's hope no one questions us too much on it. So we had quite a lot of things happening at the time that we had to address. In terms of our strategy, we had some key pillars to the strategy and what we had to do for transformation. First one was this centralised view on data. So we had data sitting in multiple pots, being involved in multiple processes, different platforms. Some of it was manual, some of it was on salespeople's laptops, some of it was held centrally. So we had a big issue just to try and get one centralised view of our data. What is our prospecting base and what is our customer base and what part of the journey are they on with us? So we had we've worked continually. The issue of data never ever goes away. So if you think you can sort that with a silver bullet, I think we all know that's not the case. We had a long hard look at the structure. So I'd mentioned around our reliance on agencies. What I'd felt we had became a team of people who were managing agencies as opposed to that core team of marketers that were responsible for everything that we'd done. So quite often if things would go wrong, which they go wrong in every organisation, when things went wrong and I spoke to the campaign manager about it, what's happened, where are we, the first response was, well, let me phone the agency. And I'm like, no, I don't want you to be phoning the agency. I want you to know what's going on with that campaign and why it's the drivers for its change. So we had to think long and hard about what skills we wanted in-house, what we wanted to own and control in-house, and what skills we wanted to bring in from external. That led on to our training requirements. We effectively retrained the whole team. At the time we had a team about 8 people at the time. And we realised that as we remodelled the process, then we had a very clear ownership of content in one area of marketing and a very clear owner of delivery and fulfilment in the other end. So what skills did we need within each of those clear areas, and then how do we actually train and develop the people to get to those levels. Process end-to-end, we've mentioned, and reporting, again, very much a similar situation to the data. So it's almost the two sides of the same coin. The data, reporting data was equally a kind of manual process driven. It was created as and when it was required. There was nothing around how do we get access to anywhere near real time, never mind a view of what was going on currently. So that was kind of the strategy, I think.
Yeah, so I'm just going to interject at this point and just say, when we look at what O2 has done in these areas, these elements of their strategy, we really think that there are 2 main areas that are I guess, pillars that have set them up well for the journey that they're on and the successes that they've seen. And that's, the first is their data. So the foundation of really spending time of figuring out what they had within the current databases, what they needed to clean up, what they needed to append, and then what was the strategy to continue to maintain that. That was just foundational. And if I compare it to some of the other organizations with which we work, that time that was spent on that was so useful because we often see clients, they just like want to get started, and they don't always spend the time on, okay, what do we actually have and how can we utilize that data? And then the second part that is absolutely, set them up so well for the successes that they have, and really the success that they will continue to have is their focus on people. As Paul has mentioned, the MarTech and I guess, anything around your data, your process, even aligning that to your strategy, it's only as good as the people that you have in your team. And so the investment in O2's marketing operations, as we heard earlier in some of the keynotes, really, building that team, making sure that they're trained and that they're enabled and that they really have an accountability for what they are supposed to deliver to the organization has been so helpful. And I think that is really what has shifted how marketing sees marketing ops and how the wider sales and sales operations teams have seen the marketing ops teams within O2.
Yeah, just to build on that, actually, I think probably the last 2 years we've seen such a huge focus of this developing world of marketing operations. Now, we were a marketing services team before that, where we delivered and built and deployed in various channels. We've kind of rebranded ourselves as marketing operations. I realised that any part of the organisation that can own the marketing data, you own it, you're responsible for it, and then you also own the engagement channels. So you own what's going out to your customers and how you interact with customers, then that's a really powerful place to be. So I'm delighted to see that marketing ops is actually coming up in its stature within not only O2, which has now got we now have a great presence in front of the O2 board regularly, talking about technology and shifts and how we allow our customer engagement models to change and how we interact with our customers. That sits with it a lot of the time in the technology space and kind of planning and how we execute. So I think for me, it's the last 2 years has been phenomenal, but I think the next 2 or 3 years is going to be incredible for marketing ops as a function. I'm not going to go through this. Really all I wanted to kind of highlight here is start small and big, and then grow big through time. We were very clear about getting one of our segments, which was our enterprise segment, which was 2,000 employees and above in our world, in public sector. We were keen to get that automated first. That's where we would first invest the time in more data, we would first invest our time in reworking process and getting the people in place to deliver it. So kind of start small, but have large ambitions for where you want to take it. Because actually, once you've done the thinking up front with the process or with the data and how you manage it and governance in place, that can just be scaled. So don't try and go for scale. Try and start small and grow through that. And what we've done since then is we've now brought on our mid-market segment, which in terms of volume is far larger for us. But we now manage everything from 10 employees and above in our landscape through the ecosystem that we have within B2B. Anything below that we manage actually in our consumer stack, which is a whole different conversation to go to. But quite happy to check. As we were going through this, not only were we opening up new segments, we were also developing the process methodology. We were developing our governance. We were developing how we get the quality at the right level. And all of that comes as kind of constantly iterating what you're set off with. But have a clear vision of where you're trying to get to and build on that as you go. This is the only slide you'll see with a supplier's logo on it, in as much as technology. And I've simplified this right down for us for the sake of the conversation. We have three in the B2B space. We have three basic platforms that we're using. So we've got Eloqua, the marketing automation tool. We've got Salesforce, which holds all of our prospect and all of our customer data in there, and data and history and interactions. And we have recently just added Tableau to that mix. And the reason for that was really, as an ops manager, as an ops person, you want to see the end-to-end view and neither Eloqua nor Salesforce give you an end-to-end view. So if you look at marketing qualified leads through to sales qualified, accepted, and moved into the funnel, we believe that didn't give us the functionality we needed. So we put Tableau across both, and Tableau is basically ingesting information from both platforms, and that gives us an area to build end-to-end dashboards, which that's really been a 2018, 2019 development. So very much still in development, but it's something that we're already seeing returns for, giving us that end-to-end view. In terms of managing the change itself, I was asked just to give some hints and tips on how to get started in managing that, because I say 80% of this change is down to things which are not technology related. I think one of the themes that's already coming out today is this kind of collaboration and buy-in. So kind of stakeholder buy-in across the area, across the company is absolutely crucial, especially with our colleagues in sales. It is one pipeline from marketing through sales through to fulfillment and sales. So we need to work hard, and part of that relationship comes with once you start having the ammunition, once you start actually having the reporting, you can start seeing funnels, pipeline builds, values ultimately of closed business. That leads back into kind of proving the credibility of the platforms and of the ways of working. So that builds itself in terms of that, but alignment is required. Upskilling the team, I spoke about it. We realised there was a big challenge there, and I think that's still the challenge for lots of organisations. So the skill set you're going to have today versus the skill set we're going to need in 3 years' time as a marketing operations function, that's constantly moving. So, attending days like this where you get a bit of a view of what's to come, understanding what are the key skills that people are going to require, lets you build and plan for that. So it takes quite a bit of time to get people comfortable, create the culture of change and the culture of training for them to develop them. We looked at this in-house skill set. I mentioned an example earlier on. One of the things I also decided early on that I wasn't going to bring technical skills in as much as integration. I didn't really want IT people sitting in our department, but what we do have are experts in the platforms, and I see that as two different things. So we have that technical expertise where we can build, we can test, we can deploy. Within the team, we have ownership. We own the scheduling, we own the deployment schedules, we own engagement with our customers. But when it comes to the technical support at the background, that's where we had Sojourn actually been doing that now for us for coming up for 6 years, I was just told this morning. So everything from actually building the initial integration through to how do we optimise in life. So a very clear, I think as marketing leaders, we need to determine what are the skills that we want to hold on to, and how we're going to build that team to deliver that. We spent a lot of time talking about best practice. Now, everybody loves utopia. Where are we trying to get to? But that can quite often just be a pipe dream, a way out there that you'll never realise. So what we started doing was producing best practice guides for marketers who are users, best practice guides for sales users, best practice guides for lead management. What did a lead mean? All these definitions, all the things that marketers talk a different language, so we had to interpret some of that to other parts of the organisation. But everything that we would need to let them as a reference point and a reference manual go back to, and that's kind of proven really, really helpful when we're doing the training for each of the areas when they come on board, and how we develop their knowledge, because actually ultimately a lot of this is about getting them self-serve capabilities across all the platforms, because actually marketing teams, marketing operations teams can't be the answer to all the questions. You need to actually facilitate their knowledge as well. And kind of that led to this driving adoption. So again, we've spent a lot of time, Jackie, who's here today, our Eloqua Ninja, is spending lots of time with these guys over the last 3 to 4 years. And as we've expanded into new segments, it means a whole new level of training requirements for either other agencies or other internal teams. And we've been spending a lot of time investing a lot of time to get that right.
And I guess, as we look at this, as I mentioned earlier, we see this as being, defining of the success that O2 has had. And I think just a couple of small examples, as Paul mentioned, the best practice documentation has been a huge focus of the team, and has been so helpful not only to their own internal team, but also to the third parties that they work with, so agencies and suppliers, to understand this is how we run our process. These are the standards that we expect, so that we can get the reporting that we need at the end. And I think it comes down to remembering that these are people that we're working with, right? Whether they're third parties or whether they are our sales colleagues, sales operations. And sometimes just having a process to be able to sit down with somebody, whether that's on a Skype session or actually face to face, and being able to talk them through this is the goal of what we're trying to achieve. And I think that's something that the team has done really, really well, that they've spent time on being able to ensure that especially their sales colleagues are able to understand this is the vision of where we're heading to. These are the reasons that we're asking you to do these things. And these are the small steps that you can help us with to actually be able to get to the end goal. And I think that level of, either one-to-one or maybe one-to-two type of interaction has been part of this evolution of the change.
I'm not going to dwell too much on this. I just thought it might be interesting to know we've got 4 centres of excellence within the operations team around data, the technology, the campaign delivery and fulfilment, and then change management. Each of these teams have a mix of O2 internal people and external people helping us do that. But again, it's creating centres of excellence around those areas. Let them become specialists, let them understand, they become the go-to people within the organisation. So very clear definition around roles and responsibilities. The Martech team, they have 2 clear remits, which is one looking after the future roadmap of where we're heading with technology, be aware of what's going on and make recommendations on where we go to. But they also have the in-life management, so they manage all of our in-house platforms as well, of our in-life platforms, sorry. So they'll be actually responsible for all the technical support that we need through our partners and all the delivery as well through those. So becoming real centre of excellence there. So what did success look like? And again, now just starting to watch the clock. I want to run through some of the successes that we've seen. More than happy either to take questions, or actually I think we're going to go on the stand after the session anyway, for I think it's lunch time soon. Happy to have any more in-depth conversations around some of these stats, and I'm not going to have enough time to run through them all in the next 3 or 4 minutes. But in terms of campaign success, we've seen a huge increase in the volumes of campaigns we're having the ability to send. So if you remember, I talked about start small and then grow fast. Basically what we've had is build the process, build the technology, build the skill set, and actually once you've got that model right, then the scalability becomes even easier. We have quite a focus on getting things right first time, so we place a lot of emphasis on how other teams around the organisations brief us, so we see ourselves very much as an internal agency in a lot of ways. So we spent a lot of time looking at the briefing process, how they request, how we get demand into the team, and then how we get that through the system. We've halved the amount of things that are coming through which are wrong, and again that's testament to the amount of time we spend training, retraining, induction training for when we get people in, and kind of saying, look, again, this is best practice. If we can stick to that and give them examples, then we're seeing that error rate going down. So it makes it far easier to bring through the delivery. We've seen an uplift in our leads. It kind of goes without saying, you wouldn't expect that, us to do all this and not. But we've kind of nearly increased that by 300% over the last 2 years, actually. Part of that's down to the expansion of the segments, that we're doing more for more areas of the business, but actually we're also getting more efficient and more effective within those segments. Having subscriber rates, interesting one just now, post GDPR and what goes on with people and their consent levels. We've got a very close eye on that across the board, and we're looking at how we bring through, for me this is something around how the content and ops work together really well. So if you get good quality content with a good quality delivery machine targeting at the right people, then we should be getting more engaging content for those. Another interesting one, I'll say 4 years ago we had no inbound leads whatsoever. We've now got a kind of 50-50 split on volumes of leads going through to the sales teams. So again, for me, a great testament to the quality of the content, but also the targeting of where we're going. In terms of data, what we've seen there in terms of success, we have really, because we've expanded out the reach of Eloqua and Salesforce as a platform, we've seen a dramatic increase in the numbers of contacts that we're managing. We kicked this off 5 years, I think we had 3,000 contacts on the base that we were comfortable bringing into Eloqua and into Salesforce. And again, nothing gets into Salesforce until we quality check the data. I think it's through a certain level of adult quality check before we bring it in, because I didn't want to bring in the mess and create even more mess. So we've seen a 30 time, it was 3,000, I think we're at 90 plus thousand connections now in our enterprise segment. Again, testament to the development that we've done there. We've got over 30 metrics. We did have KPIs, I think, next to that, but 30 metrics of things that we go through to govern the quality of our data. So these are regular daily checks that run and they're automated. It can be weekly checks, monthly and quarterly reviews around our data. So we invest just as much time in ensuring the quality of the data stays at a top level as we do probably in the fulfilment of the campaigns, because it's fundamental to how we go forward. And simple things like automated reporting on the health of the data. We've automated a lot of that, so actually literally saving on heads and making that available for other work that we're doing. So some really tangible pieces of work on the data side. In terms of technology and what we're seeing there, we talked about this visibility. One of the biggest hassles we had 5 years ago, it's kind of hard to believe it now, is that different bits of marketing didn't know what the other areas of marketing were doing. They actually didn't have visibility of one plan, which was one deployment schedule with timings, which could be prioritised and kind of move forward. So we've now got visibility of that. We've got just checking the time, just got a few minutes. What else will I pick out there? Every year Oracle do an audit on us in terms of how much functionality we're using within the platform. We're now up to 90%, which means not just about lead management, lead tracking, it's not just about deployment. We're using the events modules, we're using lots of different functionality within the platform, which is, again, another great driver. Go back 2 or 3 years, that would have been probably 20-25%. So we're really focusing on that. And lastly, we're looking at kind of what's next for us. Always looking for opportunities to maximise and optimise what we're doing. So the technology is a great thing. It enables lots of great things. But you've got to have the understanding of that to then develop a plan. So we didn't put the technology in and then call it a day. It's all about how we constantly optimise. We're learning lots of stuff now from the consumer business in terms of how they do things at large scale and volume. And we're putting some of those methodologies and practices into place in B2B. We're huge focus now on conversion in terms of what we're doing with the sales funnel. Building more clarity for our sales leaders around results and how we optimise in life, and giving us more access to the levers we can pull and where we go next. And really for me it's all about a big focus on reporting now over the next 6 months or so, getting end-to-end reporting, hence Tableau, give us a closer comfort level that we're seeing the right opportunities and the right things coming through from all the effort that all the guys put in to make it work. So how do I demonstrate that back to the business? And I think that might be us. Thanks very much for your attendance, guys.
Thank you.